Thank you very much. First of all, I have to figure out how to use old technology, as in clickers. Okay, cool. So my name is Gormley, as mentioned. I'm the CEO of Shopbox AI, and we specialize specifically in retail. Are there any retailers in the room? Okay, I keep my beady eyes on you guys. Any agencies in the room? More beady eyes. Excellent. Okay. I will make a lot of references to retail, but actually my background is loads of different industries. So I want to give you a lot of the thinking that we put into Shopbox AI to try and figure out how do you do AI well and how do you make sure you don't do it badly, because there's a lot of crap out there. I'm not going to curse too much, but I will say crap. Okay, so how many of you would have turned up for an AI presentation 3 years ago? Okay, 3 liars in the room. Excellent. 4 liars in the room. Excellent, excellent. So it's weird being popular. It's been a very lonely, very lonely time for me. So to give you a bit of my background, 26 years, 23 years of extreme loneliness talking about AI, but 3 years of fun. So that's good. Actually, it's been great crack for 26 years. It is a long time. Artificial intelligence has been around a long time. And actually, the big impetus for us in starting Shopbox AI was the difference between people using AI and people not using AI. So back 4 or 5 years ago, you probably had 5% of companies who were really using AI in any shape or form. And to be perfectly honest, they were making a fortune out of it and they weren't telling anybody else about it. And it was big and it was heavy and it was difficult to do. So we started Shopbox with the idea that we would bring AI to pretty much anyone in our sector. Okay, now we specifically decided we were going to focus on retail, and I'm going to come back to the reason for that in a second. I am going to give you one government health warning. I'm not really going to cover ChatGPT. Okay, a lot of what we use under the covers is generative AI. It's loads of other AI. There's loads of different types of AI. But the thinking that we put in is really important. I thought Julio's presentation this morning was excellent. He hit on some really important points around things of, I took a picture of the one, what was it, the mediocrity one? Mediocrity slide, you remember that one? I don't know. Anyway, it's brilliant. It's like there's going to be an awful lot more crap for us to deal with, and we'll actually have our own AIs to try and get rid of the crap so that we can get to the human stuff. So I think that's going to be very interesting. But what we're going to talk a lot about is how you change. What we do at Shopbox AI is we take anybody's online store and we make it a specific store for each individual customers. So you got 100,000 customers, you got 100,000 stores. If 1 million turn up today, you got 1 million stores. That's what we're there to do. Okay. Now let me come back to why we decided to focus just on retail, because I worked across financial services, travel, telco. I've avoided public sector because I couldn't deal with it, but pretty much anything where there's money involved, I've been there. I just haven't got any of the money. The reason we focus on retail is AI is a technology, but without the business view, it's a waste of time, and in fact, it's extremely dangerous. Okay, business and understanding business is way more important than the AI itself. Okay, you can make AI bend to any will you want to do. Okay, but you've got to come from a business perspective. So we had a choice. We could have been a generalized company. I came out of a generalized company where we sold to everybody. Okay, but I said, actually, if we want to solve real problems for people, we got to understand the industry as deeply as we understand AI. Okay, and that's why we decided to focus. And that's a common theme for me is when you talk about AI, you start with your business. You don't start with the technology. Okay, there's a guy. Have any of you ever heard the phrase? You won't have heard the phrase, hopefully, if you're lucky. But if you move in my circles, you would have heard the phrase, data science is the sexiest job of the 21st century. Okay, the guy who coined that phrase, it was the most read Harvard Business Review article ever. Okay, he published, I think, in 99 or 2000. American researcher, really interesting guy. But I remember being at an event and I asked him questions. I said, what's the biggest barrier to the adoption of this technology? He said, the people who know the technology don't have a clue about business, and business people don't know how the technology can do for them. So that's the most important thing. If you take nothing away from today, apart from you should come to us and buy some of our software, take that one away. Okay, let's go on a bit further. Okay, so I'm going to start with Amazon and H&M. So on this side, we have H&M. On this side, we have Amazon. To be honest, on this side, we can keep Amazon. On this side, we can put one of about 3 million retailers. Makes no difference. As many retailers as there are in the world, -1, go on this side. It's that simple. Amazon are so far ahead of everybody else, it is scary. It is unbelievably scary how good they are at this. Okay? And it's important because there is no point in trying to emulate H&M. This is, let's be honest, awful. That's the best thing you can say about this. I said that to somebody at H&M, and their reaction was, yeah, I know. Which is good. You could put any of the top 10 British retailers up there, German retailers, French retailers, Spanish retailers. It makes no difference. We're all pretty bad at this. That's why we start the Shopbox, okay? So what's the difference here in the thinking? Start with the thinking, because everything for me starts with thinking. Nothing starts with product. So in the thinking, Amazon wrap a store around a customer. That's what they do. They don't personalize. They don't recommend. They wrap the store. They take hundreds of millions of products, hundreds of millions of customers, and in real time, they put the two things together and make it about you. Do they get it right all the time? Who cares whether they get it right all the time? They get it right nearly all the time. Okay? And they try to create an experience. You notice nothing on Amazon is actually about selling you the next product. It's all about building an experience that allows you to go and find it yourself. Okay? It's very, very clever. And it works because they think about what retail is and they bring AI to retail. Okay, so what are H&M doing? This is a real photograph. It's a bit blurred, but it's a real photograph. Last week. So this is a photograph. This is a screenshot I took last week. So what I've been doing in H&M for over 3 years now, I do it on about 5 different retailers, is I started 3 or 4 years ago, going in every day, and all I would look at is men's shoes. Because I wanted to figure out at what point one of these retailers would figure out I was a guy with feet. I just wanted to know if one of them would ever figure that out. And last week, H&M figured out I was a guy. They don't know about the feet yet, but they figured out. Now, there is a very good chance they flipped a coin and they just put a random photograph up there. They got probably a 50% chance. So there you go. But they started to do something. So that's nice. And then they tried to sell me floral dresses, which is cool. I'm more of a solids guy, not really a floral guy. So, you know, they didn't get me right there. So that's awful. That is a terrible experience. Can you imagine, like, I went on there and I said, I'm a guy, I'm looking for shoes. I said, oh, do you want some floral dresses? Of course I don't. That actually kills conversion. You shouldn't do it. Okay, so if you're going to do that, don't bother. Just take it off your site and get rid of it. You're better off being honest than you are trying to pretend you're doing something. Okay. The 35%, Amazon will never tell you how much money they make, but analysts believe about 35% of their revenue is a direct result of the hyper-personalization that they put into their site. And remember, it's not about finding product, it's about wrapping a store around a customer. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of stuff we do that's a bit different that come later on. Before I do, I want to explain, this is really about taking the thinking that we've put into Shopbox and taking it out to say, these are the things you need to be thinking about. Okay? I don't have instant answers to any problem. On some of that thinking, apart from, you know, you can use our stuff in retail, but in the thinking, it's really about, we got to do a bit of a reset because there's a massive opportunity and it's unbelievably exciting. Okay, but we got to do it properly. Okay, this is Amazon from not this year. So anybody want to guess when this was? 2020. Anyone for 2020? 2015? No? 2010. Anyone going to put their hand up at all for 2010? Sorry, 2010. Excellent. We got one person who's got the balls to put his hands up for it. You're wrong, though. It's 2005. Imagine. It's 18 years ago. Now, what they're saying here is sign in to get your personalized recommendation. So back then, they were only doing it for 100 million customers and 100 million products in real time. 18 years ago. This is why we set up a company. Because it's unbelievable that we have a company the size of H&M who is not capable of doing today what Amazon were doing 18 years ago. Do you want to know what 18 years feels like? Anyone drop somebody off at college for the first time this year? Yeah, they weren't born. Yeah. You were probably buying a buggy for them on here 18 years ago. So this is not acceptable that we're at this level, and there's the massive opportunity now for us to leapfrog. I was talking at an event on a panel discussion. I was talking about our customers. And by the way, if you're in smaller retailers, there's a bigger opportunity than if you're in bigger retailers, for the simple reason that you're faster at making decisions. So I was talking, and we're just in the middle of this thing and said, one of our goals is that everybody gets the same technology. Big or small, I don't care. I don't see why small retailers and medium-sized retailers should not have exactly the same technology as large retailers. Okay, that's a barrier that we should get rid of. And they said, so our small retailers have the same technology as our big retailers. And I went, actually, they don't. Our big retailers take 3 months to make a decision. Our small ones do it in 5 minutes. They have better technology. That's better. Okay, so we need to be agile. So I have one question, and one question only for H&M, and that's it. Is that the best we're going to do? So let's move on and talk about some other stuff. I'm just going to cover a couple of things on here because I want to highlight some of the areas where AI if you don't think about it properly, can really hurt your business. Okay, let's start with the commercial challenge thing. The commercial challenge is, what are you trying to affect? And in our industry, we will talk about things like engagement and experience, and no. You only affect commercial metrics. If you're not affecting commercial metrics with AI, you're probably not doing something that's useful. Now, the commercial metric might be that your NPS score goes up. It might be that your conversion rate goes up. It might be that stuff gets delivered faster. But if you can't put a commercial metric against it, don't bother doing it, because you don't know if it's working. Okay, so that's number one. That's fine. Shopping challenge, we've got to stack the deck. So what I mean by that is, most people, so what we're really doing is taking what Amazon are doing and trying to make that available to everyone. And most people think about that as, well, you find the best product for the customer. It's that simple, isn't it? So we just put some recommenders up. That's H&M. Okay, if we want to change the shopping experience, and I'll come back in a minute to what that might look like, we got to start thinking a bit differently. We've got to say, hang on one second, we live in digital. That's what we do for a living. This means everything can change all the time in real time. So we've got to start thinking way, way bigger than we put a product recommendation on our PDP, or we sent them an email after they bought something to say, please buy the next thing off me. We've got to move beyond that. Okay? But that is unfortunately where most people are. Luckily, everybody's starting to think forward. Okay, the merchant stuff, this did not, there's a word on there that's missing, doesn't matter. The merchant stuff is more important. This is where most people finish. Okay, most people think, well, I'm trying to affect that, so I'm going to do that. So it's all about selling more product to customer. Okay? Actually, it's not. I'm going to talk about one thing that we talk to every retailer about, and it kind of sends them into a little bit of a shock when they hear it. Thankfully, we have an answer to it. Most AI works against retailers. And sorry, I will go into retail mode now, but everyone understands retail to some degree. What I mean by that is, you've all heard the phrase, people who like this also like this, yeah? That's what all AI in retail does. It sounds good, doesn't it? Because what it's doing is it's saying, I'll just listen to the customer, and the customer will tell me what things go together. Brilliant. We're all quids in. Here's a problem. Have you heard the phrase bestseller bias? Okay, when I say bias, most people think gender, and they think race, and they think age, and whatever else. But there is bias in pointing AI at the wrong thing. Okay, what I mean by bestseller bias, you haven't heard of it, by the way, because we only made it up 2 weeks ago. But it causes what we call the long tail problem. So all retail, or nearly all retail, has, what you're really focused on is get new product moving fast. Okay, it's that simple. Because if you move product fast, suddenly a lot of your problems disappear. You don't have to discount, so you're not killing your margins. Okay, you don't have to pay people just to move product from shelf to shelf to shelf and eventually out the back door wherever you send it on to. Okay, so there's a lot of problems caused by product not moving fast, and most merchandisers, that's what they're really focused on. If I get it moving fast, a lot of my problems disappear. On to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. We all talk about seasons and everything else. Okay, people who saw this also saw this. You just launched a product this morning. Nobody saw it. So it doesn't get seen. That's bestseller bias. Your AI is starting to force more and more people to fewer and fewer products into your low margin products that are highly competitive. Okay? So it's causing a huge problem. This is really important. You've got to understand your business and what you're trying to achieve in the business and the levers you can pull. Then you worry about the AI. Okay? So with Shopbox, we actually had a conversation with a major British retailer. They mentioned this, and we threw everything in the bin and we started again. Luckily, we hadn't started the company, but it completely changed the way we looked at the world. It's changed everything for us, because from that point on, we said a new product has to get in front of a customer within 5 seconds of hitting the catalog. Okay, and I don't care whether traditional AI works or not. We got to invent new ways of doing it, so that's what we did. Okay, so now our retailers, when a new product hits, it gets in front of a customer within 5 seconds. Okay, so it's really important, and people are blindly walking into systems that are pretty bad. The other thing is, what does AI stand for? Artificial intelligence. I was asked in the airport, I was on a Zoom call the other day in the airport, and this guy said to me, why don't you talk more about automation? I went, yeah, we should call it automated intelligence. Because it's actually about automation. That's actually all it is. It's about taking the intelligence that a human being would normally have and being able to scale that up. So that's why I say we create a unique store per customer. If you got 1 million customers, you got 1 million stores. You can't scale people up. Okay, so what you're really doing with AI is allowing somebody to have the same experience, but at scale. Okay, so we spend a lot of time replacing systems where people say, you know what, we bought it and it sounded good and it allowed us loads of control. When I hear the word control, that's when red flags start to go up. And so tell me about the control. And so, well, the thing was, every day we have to come in and tell it more about what we wanted to do. And okay, that's fine. And how does that work out as you're getting to Christmas? Oh, we don't touch it before Christmas. My God, like we got 6 weeks before Christmas where we don't even sleep. So we're not touching systems. Okay, so it stagnates then over Christmas. So that's fine, but we pick it up in January. Okay, so you get the system to work best when you have the least sales. That doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, so when somebody is talking to you about AI, if it is not automated, you've got to be asking questions. It's probably BS, to be perfectly honest. 90% of, like, everybody didn't turn up at conferences last year and suddenly have built an AI by mistake, okay? None of them had it the year before. So be careful, understand the people you're talking to. All this good so far? Cool. Okay, I'm going to talk about one other thing. So this is very e-commerce focused. So apologies if you're not involved on the e-commerce side. But so I just told you about a couple of problems on there that we help people solve, because we have to think very, very deeply about what we're doing, or we can't do what we want to achieve with retailers. Now, there is one fundamental problem that we identified that actually drives everything we do. Okay? And if you're in e-commerce, this is really important. And by the way, it's been mentioned in the last presentation here. By the way, I've never seen anybody turn up for an econometrics presentation before in mass either, so the world is definitely changing, and Julia definitely covered it earlier on. We have lost control of the customer in e-commerce. It's a fundamental issue, and nobody's really talking about it, and we need to talk about it. And the reason we've lost control is for the last 25 years, Google have been telling us that it's all about session conversion. How many of you woke up in the morning and needed a lawnmower and bought it straight away? Literally no one. Okay? Everybody goes through a shopping process. Even to buy a pair of sneakers, they're 100 quid. You probably bought 1,000 of them before. You still go through a shopping process. Okay? In this shopping process, it starts with idea, it moves through. All the major decisions get made here, and e-commerce is concentrated here. Now, this causes a huge problem, because that means that most online stores are missing every major decision their customers make. They're making those decisions on Google. And guess who has more money than anybody else? Guess why? They control the customer. So it's time for us to start wrestling it back. Now, we're in retail. We can't just wrestle it back. It's going to take time. But what we focus on is, how do we make sure that more of our customers have their customers making decisions inside their stores, not outside their stores? It's a fundamentally important thing. The other thing is that this approach to e-commerce is unbelievably expensive. So you attract a customer in by paying Google, and they're not ready to buy, but you don't really know, and you don't really help them because you just throw product at them and hope it works, but they're not ready to buy, so they go back out. And then Google sells them to you again, and again, and again, and again, and eventually you sell the lawnmower or the sneakers or whatever, and Google has just taken all your margin. This is why our margins are in the toilet. Okay, we've got to get our margins up again. So we've lost control, and it's time for us to start taking back a bit of that control from Google. Okay. How are we doing in time? Are we okay for 5? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through. We think of the world we don't think of the world this way. That would be weird. We think of retail in three different things, but I think it works for pretty much any industry. We think of a competitive space where you're at in Google. You can't avoid it. You got to bring customers in. So there's always a competitive space, and your job is to get people in out of that competitive space into your business. Once somebody lands in, our job at that point is not to try and convert them. Our job is to get them deep into the business, deep into the store. Okay, so if you look at the way a high street store behaves, when you're hanging around, they don't allow you to hang around the door. They want you to move into the store. Okay, that's the really important thing, because once you get people engaged, then they start interacting properly with your store, and they start making decisions in your store, and your conversion rates go up very quickly. Okay. The last thing is the personal space. I'll come on to that one in a few minutes, because that's one that we're just starting to really explore properly. Okay, so competitive space, horrible place to be. Get the hell out of it. Spend as little money as you can in it, but you got to spend a lot of money in it. That's life, but get out of it. Okay, Google Shopping Feed. You put your brand name in, and you know your competitor is coming up as #1 in Google Shopping Feed. It's a terrible place to do business, and it's extremely expensive, but that's life. We have to deal with it, but get them out of there. Okay. So I'm going to show you this. I sent the guys the wrong slides, so hopefully it's the right slides, because otherwise the animation doesn't work, and I'm going to have to use modern dance to explain this demo, which is going to be really funny. But the first thing we do a lot of things for our customers, okay, and they're all switch-on things. So we have loads of different options for them to switch on. But I'm going to show you two. The first one I'm going to show you is how we get somebody deep into the store. Now, you have a fundamental problem. This is Shoe. They've been a customer of ours for just under 2 years now. So when somebody lands on Shoe have no idea what this customer wants. Literally none. Okay, they might have bought them off them 40 times before, but we don't know why they're here today. So the traditional approach of AI and data is, well, I need to know stuff. I need to know history so I can be about the customer. Yeah, it's pretty simple. But the problem is I don't know anything about the customer. Literally nothing. So I can't use anything, so I just give up. Okay, and that's pretty much what we've done as an industry for the last 20 years. We said, we can't solve that problem. Well, we looked at it and went, when somebody says impossible, I kind of go, cha-ching, there's money in impossible, let's try that. So we came up with the concept of an AI shop assistant. The AI shop assistant is there. Yay, it did work. Okay, so when somebody sees something they like, they can start to tell us what's interesting to them instantly. We call it shopping by example. What we've really done is, we've said, how do people behave in a store? And what happens in a store is they walk towards a product, and a shop assistant sees they're starting to struggle and say, hey, do you like that? You should look at some of these things. Okay, so we just want that very gentle, very use service and use what happens in the physical world to make the digital world better. Now, the result of this is people with 1 or 2 clicks are starting to see 20 or 30 products that are relevant to them. So I don't need their history anymore. All I need to do is think about the problem differently and figure out how I can use data and AI to help that problem. Okay? So don't take what anybody tells you as at face value. Assume everybody's wrong. You can come up with some really good ideas. Okay, typically when people engage with this, they will spend 5 times longer in store. So I don't like when people say the word engage and experience, because they don't mean anything. What I mean by engage is people go deeper in your store, they spend longer in your store, they spend 5 times longer, they will look at 3 times more product, and that's why they will convert much higher and they will spend more money. Okay, they're going to spend the money anyway, they might as well spend it with you. Okay. I'm going to come back to another example of what we do in a minute. As I say, we do a lot of other stuff, but that's the thing. Okay. So just take a pause at this stage. This is a McKinsey chart. It makes no difference where the charts come from. This is really in retail, and they include manufacturing. It's kind of a weird chart, but anyway. These are the areas that they believe AI is going to be applied to. And it makes no difference who you talk to. It's going to be similar. Okay? So the vast majority, it's hard to read this, but the vast majority is sales and marketing. So it's all about customer. Okay? This is all about supply chain. So it's about making sure we have the right products on the shelf. That's simple. Everything else, you'll have finance and everything else. So this is where the bulk of the money is going to be spent in the next few years, which is good for me, by the way. And hopefully good for you as well. The interesting thing for me there is most people aren't even at the races yet. So there's massive potential for us to do really, really interesting things. We got to start thinking about leapfrogging. Okay? This technology is going to allow us to leapfrog over some much, much bigger players. And we've all seen, we're all old enough. We've been alive when things like mobile technology came along, and suddenly people with the best fixed networks didn't matter anymore. Everybody had mobile. So who cared anymore? Okay? AI is a technology that will allow any business to start leapfrogging. Now, in order to do it, I'm going to take you back to, we talk a lot about Amazon because Amazon is retail and we're retail and that's it. But actually, Netflix, I find, is a much more interesting company for a few different reasons. First of all, they've gone through, this is their 3rd major business model that they invented, and wow, did they invent it. Okay, so they're a hugely interesting company. But I'm going to pick out 2 or 3 things about what Netflix do that shows you about leapfrogging the competition. So, first thing, when Netflix, how many of you ever type in the name of a movie and the phrase Netflix at the end of it in Google? 1, 2, no, 1, okay. How many, let me rephrase the question, how many of you type in Netflix and then when you hit Netflix you look for the movie? That's more normal, isn't it? Okay. When Netflix launched, Google owned the internet. Okay, so this is not a given that you type in Netflix, but Netflix figured something out. They said, we have a choice here. We can become about customer or we can be a product company. And if we're a product company, what we are is a content company. So what we'll do is we'll publish movies, and if somebody wants a movie, they'll type it into Google, and they'll go and they'll watch the movie on our platform, and we make no money. They said, actually, no, we're going to control the customer. But they had to work hard at it because Google already owned the customer. Okay, so they flipped the whole thing around. They said, we are going to focus like hell on making Netflix where people come and then they type in the name of the movie. Okay, nobody really thinks about that, but it's so important. It's the way they built what they built. Now they got huge competition. Everybody's stealing. Well, not stealing, but they're borrowing off their ideas and everything. But it was them who came up with that concept. Okay, second thing is I said typing in the movie. How many of you type in the name of a movie every day you go to Netflix? Very few of us. The same person again. Oh, come on. It's completely unfair. Okay, so one person types in the name of the movie every time. What do the rest of us do? We scroll. Yeah? So the other thing Netflix figured out is said, we're sick of people typing. If they type, they just go to the movie that somebody mentioned and there's no experience here. If we curate, they scroll and they get involved and they stumble across things they wouldn't have seen before and suddenly it's an experience and suddenly they're there for 4 hours every night instead of 1 hour every night. That's the thinking Netflix put into it. And that's the thinking we need to put into retail. Okay, I'll hurry up so I don't run over. So, time to leapfrog. Time to think about your brand and think, how do we leapfrog the competition? How do we put stuff in place that actually allows customers to interact with us a bit differently, and AI allows us to do that. I'm going to show you one last thing and then we'll wrap up. So, thing we just launched a few months ago, which is I find really exciting because all my customers want it really fast, so we're just trying to upgrade everyone at the moment to it, is a new concept that kind of is a bit like what Amazon does, but the whole concept is to create a personal space inside a store. So retailers, I got 1 minute, retailers normally allow you into the store, you buy something, they're so happy, you go out of the store and they never think about creating an actual experience for you. Okay, so what we said is actually Amazon do the opposite. So let's create a personal space inside the store. So we get them deep first of all, but the second we know one thing about them, let's make the store about them. So I said 1 million stores for 1 million customers. So on here, KitLocker based in Sheffield. They've been a customer of ours for about 2 years now. So here we have, somebody came in here, you can't see it, but they're typing in the word referee. This person has never been seen by KitLocker before. They go down, they select one product. At the point they select one product, we now have created a couple of things for them. I'm going to show you one of them. So when we go back, this is a curated homepage that is now reacting in real time to every customer as they surf. So if you think about that Amazon homepage that understands you as a customer, this is doing the same thing. The difference is this took them 15 minutes to set up. Okay, so Amazon spent 100 million. KitLocker didn't spend, I'd love if they spent 100 million with us, but they didn't. The other thing that KitLocker have just gone live with is a concept we call the personal shopping page. So with the same indicator, the same one product view, we create a personal page for every customer, whether they're anonymous or not. And that customer now has an ownership of part of that store, which we're then using email to try and keep people involved with. Okay, so it's not that it's rocket science, it's that we're thinking differently about how do we involve customers and build a brand for the store rather than just allow them to buy a product and they go and then we have to try and buy them back again. Okay, here are a few of our customers. We've got a load of customers around the place, and yeah, some of these are down in the 500,000 online sales per year. Some of them are in the hundreds of millions online per year. The important thing is all of them get the same technology because the point is to make this easy. That's me. I hope that was useful. I hope that was interesting. And yeah, thank you very much for turning up.